Hi, I'm Susan. I'm from Worldpeacefull, and I'm going to read you out another one of my blogs. This one's called To Be or Not to Be, APEC or OPEC, and this was published in 2011. And it really canvasses areas of protest. It looks at energy and peace and truthfulness, and really gives some sort of comment to the way the global power configuration is operating. So I'll first start with the introduction to the blog. To think out of the box will change the world. Indeed, to stop thinking opens up a new world. I was thrilled to hear on my return from my world trip that Aung San Suu Kyi was released. She was incredibly strong, and I often thought about her. It took around 18 years for her to be released. That is the price of truth and democracy. I talk in the poem that I'll read out for you about the Chasers, which refers to a comedy program on the ABC, that's the Australian Broadcasting Commission, where in 2007, the Chasers, whose program is called The Chasers War on Everything, so nothing's out of limits, they breached police security during the APEC summit in Sydney. And you can actually see on YouTube Chasers and Osama get into APEC, updated official footage. You'll find it really interesting. It's very funny. One of the comedians was dressed as Osama bin Laden. They had badges on saying joke. They had a black four-wheel drive with men running next to the vehicle as pretend security. They kept driving, the police were waving them through. So they kept driving and the police were waving them through. Apparently one policeman said, "The road is yours." Then they decided to test them further, and the actor, as Osama bin Laden, gets out of the car in white robes and a fake beard. He looked very funny, and it looked fake. And he starts walking, but the guy dressed as a security guard is arrested. So in other words, the police converged on them and arrested the guy looking like a security guard, not the Osama bin Laden. And they noted that, and they said that Osama was allowed to walk. They are meters from Bush's hotel at this time, so obviously George W. Bush is in power. The next day, they said security was vamped up, so they went back with little cardboard cars. So they actually made cardboard cards to see if they were stopped, and again had to laugh. Now the police were not laughing, as it did show holes in Australian security, but at the same time, it is laughing at how seriously we take ourselves, these leaders and their importance. The whole of Australia watched the program and laughed, and I love that. Sorry, can't toe the official line. It was hilarious. And yes, there was embarrassment, but you know what? We're all human. People do make mistakes, and even the police on that day, because it's quite natural for people to see, if you've got a black car like all the other dignitaries' cars with security running next to it, the mind tends to assume that they are legitimate. Now, I know that they would have all been very severely penalised by the police and by government. Certainly the Prime Minister was embarrassed. But at the same time, I've got plenty of room for forgiveness there. People make mistakes and you can't always know. They'll learn next time. But the real essence of all of that was we take ourselves way too seriously, and we do. And one more story I'll convey to you. It was when I was going to the G20. It was actually G20 as a clown. So this is the G20 meeting that gets held at various places around the world. My reason for going was not to protest, but to ensure people didn't get violent. My friends had an army truck with a pink heart on it. They were negotiating with the police to get it into Exhibition Street here in Melbourne. Without thinking, I bounced into their negotiations and it lightened up. I was told later it was getting heated and unwittingly I did diffuse it. My friends talked about their democratic right and the police were interested in safety and security. I'd say fair to both. Anyway, they got the truck into the city, which was good, of the police, in actual fact, and they set up music. I got up on the truck after a while and did some juggling. It was a bit scary. I remember that at the time. I was sort of precariously balanced. And if I dropped my ball, it would drop a long way. So I had to make sure I didn't drop my balls. I remember that. The funny part was a police cordon was formed around the truck and there was hardly any people. It was very surreal. Then my other friend, she had this dominatrix outfit, so a little black tight outfit with fishnet stockings. And I was really surprised. I didn't expect her to come marching out like that. And she had another guy dressed as George Bush, so he had a mask of George Bush. So they were doing a sort of a theatrical skit to make a point. She read out war crimes to him and put fluffy pink handcuffs on him and paraded him in front of the police. And they were the only audience. There was very few people there. So it was like this was all for them, really. It was quite interesting. Anyway, I wondered what they were thinking. This is the police. I was wondering what they were thinking. It was new for me too. I'd not seen this before. First time I'd ever been in a protest like this. I went into the small group and I noticed that there was this woman, she was just standing in front of the police staring. It was like she was trying to annoy them. And I wasn't really too keen on that. I couldn't see the point of it. I actually wanted to make friends with the police. I'm a clown, so for me, all people are my people. I feel goodwill towards everyone. I see no enemies. Police are human just like me. So I saw my role as bringing sanity into insanity. If I can prevent violence and foster democracy, that's a good thing. I believe in freedom of speech, and I know protest is important as releasing a safety valve for society. So it's absolutely necessary to have people able to protest freely, without violence, obviously. People need to feel that they are heard, and this is a really huge issue in our society at the moment, and probably, I say at the moment, but in actual fact, it's gone on since time immemorial. People haven't been heard a lot of the time. It's a subject I'm becoming more aware of, and I see it as essential if we are to have a peaceful world. Grievances can't be ignored, nor impacts that affect people. It becomes their business when directly affected. So what a day I had. So here's the poem I wrote about APEC and OPEC. I think APEC's Asian Pacific Economic Cooperation. I'm just going to double check that. It's been a while since I've done economics, but I'm pretty sure that's what it means. So it's all the Asian countries coming together. Yes, it's the Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation Forum. They do APEC. Australia is a member of that. Okay, APEC or OPEC? And of course, OPEC is oil, petroleum exporting countries. I'm a bit of a stickler for making sure it's right what I'm saying. Let's just go there for a sec. I know I'm right. I know it's oil. Oh, I'm wrong. It's Organisation of the Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC. I guess I always think of it as oil, but that pretty much is what it is. Okay, so let me go back to this poem and I will start reading it. APEC or OPEC? Regional cooperation or petroleum exporting. For agendas run parallel. Governments run parallel with economic interests. Gas or hot air? Clean coal or clean nuclear power? Carbon emissions or carbon trading? For to enrich uranium calls to the prophets of doom. For the genie in the bottle will not grant 3 wishes. For once released, the camel is unable to pass back through the needle. For truth is the needle in the haystack. Rhetoric is the haystack in the feedlot. A live feed repeating patterns of mass production. as weapons of mass destruction fuel fields of fire. For there is a geisha ghost in the machine. John Lennon, Mahatma Gandhi, Martin Luther King, Lao Tzu, Aung San Suu Kyi have promoted the clean, virtuous way. That is crystal clear, for to enrich the spirit honours the life cycle. For it is valuable in a world in poverty. For hope lives in memories of greatness enshrined in admiration, as words are quoted infinitum, yet never acted upon in one's own life. For what is the message of your life? To know the truth, one must truly see it and seek it. To seek it, one must be willing to sacrifice beliefs that do not serve. For why are the true messengers of peace persecuted or assassinated? Why is that so? When selflessness serves our humanity as banners of freedom and democracy, flying the flags of true community, the turning point is today. The burning point is tomorrow. The critical mass awaits, a mass that is critical. For this is the signpost. Yet how long do we wait at the crossroads, spectators in a coliseum of power games? For the Middle Ages are not the Middle East. It is the Midwest of occupation, where the majority do not move in fear of prosecuting dissent. So have another drink on the house, enjoy another Doha round. Perhaps a chaser to sober the illusion of security, for insecurity is impenetrable. For insecurity is penetrable, protecting a war on everything, erecting security barriers, policing another wall of Jericho, in a state focusing on terror over justice, that keeps some in and others out, fast-breeding suspicion over civil liberty. For freedom of speech becomes a decision rather than a right. For is this a partnership in democracy, or an uneven playing field of favours? Yet as the summit eclipses expectations, who is in need of real protection? For there are boys in the bubble, actors behind the mask, majors in the art of deception. For Asia Minor is not minimised. Appreciation is the currency of surplus. As the dragon celebrates its ongoing luck, energy is the line of credit that feeds each lot. As the last dynasty demands more supply from the third world, for addiction to power is a moving line and two broken lines, a trigram that warns the end of lineage. For 10 Earths are the ecological footprint, as credit outstanding in the sands of our time. For the hourglass is 10 seconds to midnight, a significant signpost trading in the nuclear winds of silencing dissent. The planet succumbs to universal laws of equilibrium and homeostasis, impervious to negotiation or trade deals, rendering the possible explorations as impossible for sustaining life itself. Only non-violence is a force more powerful, that is unemployed in a world that values structural violence over human rights. Until what one values changes intrinsically for good, the future is practically impossible. To be or not to be is the only question worth asking. Yeah, there's a lot of information. I will post the link to this poem so that you can read it through a bit more carefully because it's quite long. When I write, I just sort of let it flow. I just get inspired and I just get a stream of consciousness really when I'm writing. I seldom edit my poems. I just let it flow. I don't believe in, editing or censure. Sometimes I do. It just depends if I think something doesn't sound quite right. But I just want to say I use the I Ching in here, which is moving lines and broken lines. They actually have what they call trigrams, hexagrams. It's actually 2 trigrams. So you're looking at clusters of 3. Imagine that. Some of them moving lines, broken lines, moving line. And I used to flip coins and do the I Ching. I Ching is really fascinating. I found that a very amazing document in terms of social order. Chinese were very wise and very mystical people. And at the same time, they had a very sophisticated social order and society. There was, not that I'm an expert on China, I'm not, but I'm imagining there's a lot of complexity in the way that they worked with one another. I think of Confucius here, who was probably a master of social order. Lao Tzu is the one I'm familiar with, which he was a mystic and a very enlightened person. And that's why in this poem I talked a bit about, I'm just going back, I talked about gas or hot air, clean coal or nuclear power, and I talked about enriching uranium. And then I went down a little bit and I started talking about the spiritual leaders. So we're going from energy and really the war machine. And then I contrasted that with John Lennon and Gandhi, very much the virtuous leaders that have been on the planet. Of course, there's been many more, and I'm sure there's a lot we don't even know about who've lived, exemplary lives dedicated to real inner truth, reflecting that outward. And I talked about them being crystal clear. They usually have deep clarity in their minds. They see the world as it really is. That's why they're profoundly enlightening for those who come in contact with them. Even Gandhi, I remember I met a man who knew Gandhi. He met him as a teenager. And when I interviewed him for radio, I remember him having tears in his eyes as he was describing to me the great energy of this man. And he said he was profound. He was so loving. And when he came into his presence, he actually felt this energy. And you will find that with those people who have really come into full alignment with their inner truth and inner love, they're incredibly powerful. That's why I talk about at the end of the poem, non-violence is a force more powerful, because inherent within non-violence is a fully loving human being who has no desire to harm you whatsoever. And they're not egoic, so they're not trying to impress you either. They're just being simple and themselves. And of course, the true power resides there. So in the poem, I talked about enriching the spirit honours the life cycle. So what that really means is, as you start to find your inner wealth, you're enriching through the spirit, which is the virtues. It honours the life cycle because it actually harmonises with life. That's why the virtues are so important if we want world peace. And world peace is not a lofty notion of something out there. World peace actually begins within you. All teachers will tell you that. And there's no fanfare around it. You don't have to be Mahatma Gandhi and, lead a whole group of people, a whole country. Just lead yourself. And that is the Mahatma Gandhi within you. That's the Lao Tzu within you. That's the Jesus within you, the Muhammad, Buddha, whoever it is that you aspire to, who has exhibited unconditional love and virtues. They are the ones that are already in harmony with the planet, because the planet itself is that. You can't have an ecosystem as the one we have that's not in harmony. It has to be in harmony. Everything is connected. And so you upset parts of that system. The system will adapt over time, but it takes time. It has within even its genetics some genes that turn on and off. So if conditions change, some genes may be favoured in that particular plant life or animal life. So the planet itself has got built-in mechanisms to ensure for adaptability and sustainability. And really, it's for the human world to start to observe nature more closely, to understand peace. And of course, the inner virtues are governed by feeling good. When you feel incredible joy, you can be absolutely sure you've tapped into universal values which are inherently natural. See, it's the feeling side, it's not the thinking side, because the feeling side is what taps us into nature. The thinking side is actually, creates that uniqueness in human beings, the belief systems, and we all follow those beliefs. But they can move us away from what's inherently natural. We can shut down what's natural, believing it's right or wrong. Although nature would say to you, if it feels good and it doesn't harm anyone, that would be you tapping into the gentleness of peace as nature within you. That's how it really works. That's why I talk a lot about peace, is because I've recognized that, and I've learned that really peace is not some ideal term. It's actually who we are. But we've just moved a long way from it because we live in fear, and the fear tends to drive us towards money systems. It drives us towards dominance because we're fearful of being dominated. We're fearful of losing power, so we seek to gain power. But it's very unconscious around the world. Many people don't know they're doing it. They've learned it from their fathers or their grandfathers, mothers, grandmothers. I've seen dominant women, I've seen dominant men. But the thing is that power over paradigm is really about control, and it's because you don't feel in control within yourself that you need to control others in order for them to conform, to make you feel better. And of course, the peace paradigm is the other way. It's about you learning to find peace under all conditions. It's not about others changing to please you. It's about you being who you are and not projecting negativity onto others. You may be in a state of this is not me. In the true peace paradigm, you actually wouldn't say a disagreement. You would actually say, this is simply not me. This is who I am. But you wouldn't divide off. You would just accept that this person is making that choice. Leading by example, of course, is the most powerful way to move forward. It's not really about leading others. It's about leading yourself. Excuse me. I'm recovering from a cold right now, so I've been a bit out of balance myself. I don't edit these videos because we're here to be human. It's okay to have a cold and it's okay to cough. It's about being authentic, just be yourself. And the world is out to love you in truth. So with that, I send love to the world and peace, and take care.